off. You know, I mean, like you don't want to be picked there, right? And so there's some emotion there. That's not how they view themselves. That's not how we view them in the building. And so, like I said, we talked about it, and now it's about you have two things: you prove them right or you prove them wrong. And we're going to go about our business and prove them wrong.
Coach, with NIL, do you think there needs to be more uniformity with state NIL laws?
Well, I think there needs to be federal legislation where everybody's playing under the same rules. Now, what's that look like? I mean, you're gonna have to find somebody way smarter than I am. You know, that's an opinion. You know, how to make that work. You know, that's complicated, right? I do have some faith. I think the bill that Senator Manchin and Senator Tuberville are pushing forward. I think there's. I would like to see that have a chance to be put in front of Congress, and there's some things that I think will help as far as legislation if that can get passed.
Is it a competitive advantage right now for schools and states where they do have those things?
Well, I think it's the schools that play to their state laws. Competitive advantage. Here's the deal: more is a competitive advantage, right? Like, and that's not too much different than in any facet of life. But the schools that have more money, right, available, are at a competitive advantage. And the state laws help; they help. But the biggest determinant is the amount of money.
Are you surprised at how it's gone in NIL? I mean, it's only 2 years in, and how seemingly out of control everything already is.
No, I'm not. I think as coaches, it's not just NIL. So, like, I've said this publicly. I believe this. Like, the players should be paid. Like, they should be able to profit off their name, image, likeness. They should get a piece of this enterprise, which is college football. Like, everybody else is benefiting, they deserve to benefit. Okay, I think there's probably a better way to get money in their pockets than the system that we currently have. You know, and it's because what you have is you got this convergence of NIL and transfer portal. So what we've really created here is free agency without any rules, right? And so that's the issue. NIL is not, but I think if you talk to anybody in the coaching profession, you know, when these things happen, they're like, oh man, this is going to get off the rails here pretty quick.
So you think a revenue sharing model would be good?
So and I've said this to our local people, they've heard this before, is college football, we missed the boat when the TV contracts start going up and up. What we should have done as an enterprise is the players who are the product on the field, they deserve a piece of that pie. And so as far as what's the best way to make that happen, I don't have those answers, but I think they deserve a piece of that pie. And then you can create some equality through that.
Neal, the commissioner brought up the idea of exploring playing more Thursday or Friday night games. I know other leagues like CUSA is going to weeknight games in October. You know, you've got one this year, but it's in Houston. You know, do you like that idea, or how do you think that would impact, you know, your program in the state of West Virginia, where people travel so far to see you guys play?
So, I'm a fan of the midweek games if you can make it work. Now we have, and you know this, like we have something that really complicates hosting those games because of the hospital, you know, and so that makes it difficult. But I'm a fan of the midweek games. If you look at, we played 3 midweek games last year. Go back and look at the TV ratings on all 3 of those games, extremely high. So what happens when you play a midweek game is you're only competing maybe against one other game. The NFL's moved where they're on streaming, and so a lot of people don't have access to that. And so I think Commissioner Yormark is an innovator in a lot of ways, and I am totally in line with his belief that, you know, Thursday, Friday, you know, 4 different time zones on Saturday, we can really add to the exposure of the league, and it helps the schools if they're playing that because all eyes are on them.
You know, your spring initiative to make things a little more fundamental, concentrate on those basics for improvement. Have you had a chance to evaluate how that came up, and especially maybe the spring game, the last scrimmage, to see what kind of effect that emphasis had?
So I'll give you a quick snippet. So like missed tackles, you know, that's something that we really emphasize defensively, is going back and really fundamentally working on some of the fundamentals in off-season activities into spring ball. Now we're doing it through the OTAs as far as just working some you can't go against anybody else, but you can work some of the fundamentals, getting in position to make those. And so what we saw is we had, compared to a year ago, we had less missed tackles in our live periods. Now, the proof will be once we get into our season, especially in our first 3 games. But I do think we're trending in the right way, and we're seeing some positive momentum built off that kind of focus on the fundamentals. And that's just one aspect.
And it seemed like for penalties too, I think only 1 in the spring game.
Yeah, and so the other thing that we've done is we've really tried to be intentional about getting higher level officials at our practice and making sure that we're throwing the flags. Actually, they're just not there. They're actually throwing flags. And so it goes back to that deal. You've heard me say this a bunch, is we got to eliminate errors. One of those errors we got to eliminate is the penalties. There's a difference between aggressive penalties, which you're going to have, and you don't want to necessarily minimize those, all right, because they're part of the game. But your procedures, things like those that are non-competitive, what I call non-competitive penalties, you got to reduce those.
You mentioned about the players being, they're using this as motivation, some of these predictions. Are the coaches as well? Because, obviously if that were to play out, everybody's back against the wall.
Oh, yeah, that's that without a doubt. Like, I think you take that personal. There's definitely a personal. I take it personal. Our staff takes it personal. That's fair.
Obviously with the expansion of the league, there's no more round robin schedule. How much of a difference does that make for you coaching, knowing that you're going to have different teams that you're going to play that you have not familiar with, and teams you're used to playing you're not going to play?
Well, I think it really affects your off season, kind of your summer, because you go through and when you play everybody and you do that, you kind of get into a rhythm of, okay, I know what they're doing, and now you add new teams in, and so you're doing a little bit more exploration. Actually, you're trying to figure out their roster, what's their coaching history, what have they done in the past, so it's added to that. Going away from the round robin, I really think it's a positive for the conference, just because it's one less self-inflicted wound. You know what I mean? Like, really. And so now somebody has an opportunity to run the table, all right, and be an undefeated team. Well, it's going to be really, really hard under our previous setup.
And Neal, how did you kind of boost your collective so it's helping you retain and also acquire?
Yeah, so I think since Ren's been here, we've had more open dialogue, and we've been able to fundraise. I think too, and being in West Virginia every day, like you are, Mike, you understand. I think our fan base and our supporters and donors have a much better understanding of what its role is and how it can benefit all our athletic programs.
Were you not having the conversation? Was it so new that you weren't sure how to have the conversation?
So there was some gray area there. Yeah, we were staying out of the gray, and so administration's more comfortable now, and so we really kind of kicked it in from a fundraising initiative.
As a coach, can you conversationally push the envelope, like suggest things, do things?
Yeah, from a fundraising standpoint, absolutely.
Is it just going out and talking to people?
It's going out and talking to people. A lot of it's education. Like, how does it work? And understanding where there are lines of communication and where there aren't, and how it's, I don't think this is shocking to anybody, but like the ability for players to earn money through NIL is a major deciding factor in where they're going out of the portal or where they're coming out of high school, and that's just kind of what it is. And from going back to what I was saying on the education piece, I just think our fans have a better understanding of what the New World College athletics looks like.
From a retention standpoint, Neal, when those windows are open, is that just a constant conversation with your players?
Yeah, I think you have to prepare. The windows are too long. It's a really long time. The one in December, January. The hardest part is when your team's not on your campus. And so when you're able to have daily interactions, whether it's a practice or workouts or you're in a meal and you have them, and you can sense a change in body language, or you see it on their face, and hey, what's going on? Is there something you need to talk about? You can have those conversations and they're surrounded by people, okay, that have been involved in their development, whether it's strength conditioning, nutrition, all those different support areas, academics, whatever it is, they're involved and they're with them. The part that really turns it into a wild card is when they go away and they're not in front of you. You don't know who's around them. You don't know if people that are giving them advice have their best intentions. That's where it makes it difficult. And so especially in that January period, you know, every college student that's not playing they're back doing and around people that aren't connected to your organization. And so, yeah, you have a communication plan, and you know, there's no downtime. There's no downtime when those portal windows are open.
Guys, I got to take them. I'm sorry.
All right, thanks, guys.